Hey guys, it's Mike McInerney. Welcome to another episode of Workout 101 on workouttrainer.com right here at The Gym, the personal home fitness studio for Dr. Jim Sapani and myself. So today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the biceps and the different exercises. Now, a lot of people when they do bicep curls, they do different variations of the biceps. Now, I have covered this in other episodes, but it's always good to rehash some things when it pertains to explaining, because people get different points based on different things and each time that you do explain it. So what I want to talk about today is the difference between a regular dumbbell biceps curl and a hammer curl, because a lot of people do them, and I want you to understand the biomechanics behind the movement and what happens with the muscles that are emphasized. So the normal biceps curl, now I've covered this before, a lot of people will do the biceps curl to where they start off in a neutral grip and they'll come up and they will turn the biceps because they want the bell to pass their leg and they don't want to hit it. And that's perfectly fine as long as you know when to turn the dumbbell. And what I mean by that is you don't want to come up like this in a hammer curl and then turn at the last minute. A lot of people say, oh, that's how you work on peak. That's not correct. And the reason why is because in a hammer curl, as you come up, the bicep is not the primary muscle that is actually being emphasized when it's curling the weight up. That is the brachialis, which lies underneath the bicep. And the brachialis is under here and under here, and that is a smaller muscle that assists in flexion of the elbow, and it's emphasized by when you rotate as in a neutral grip. In a neutral grip here, you can see what happens with the biceps head. Okay, as I go here, you see my biceps, right? So right now that head is shortened. And that means that there's an emphasis placed on it because of the way that the bicep is connected to the elbow. And as the radius and the ulna rotate and overlap each other, that ulna is pulling the tendon on that bicep, which lengthens it. When a muscle is lengthened in that instance and can't contract, right here, there's not a whole lot of contraction going on. So the primary muscle that's involved when you're curling or flexing the arm, when your hand is in this neutral position, and there's different hand positions. This is called a neutral position. This is called a supinated position. This is called a pronated position, okay? When we are in a neutral position, the muscle that is pulling the most, it has the most load applied to it, is the brachialis. Are the biceps activated? Of course, but they're not the primary muscle group emphasized. So when you're curling and you're doing bicep curls, and you're coming up almost in a hammer curl and then turning here, you're not placing a direct load onto the biceps at the point in which you should. One of the other reasons why is because once you pass this point here and start moving, the dumbbell is no longer going as much vertical as it is going horizontal. And because load from gravity is directly down, you're pulling the bell back. So you're not getting as much weight applied to the biceps during the point where the biceps are most activated. So what I usually do in this instance, if I do want to do bicep curls with the dumbbells, I always have my palms turned out. That way I don't have to worry about when I actually turn the bell. So I keep my palms out and I squeeze up all the way down. And I know that I'm placing the emphasis on the biceps. Now remember, there are two heads of the biceps. There's a long head and a short head. The long head and the short head are both being utilized in just a regular dumbbell curl. The long head is responsible for peak. The short head is responsible more for width. Depending on your hand position, you can place a greater load onto each one of those heads. Depending on the position of the elbow, you can place a different load on each one of those heads. If the elbow is behind you, as in a laying incline biceps curl, or if you have a behind the back cable curl, you're placing more of a load onto the long head, which will help build more peak. If your arms are more in front of you, such as in a preacher curl, or if you're doing like a high cable curl, now the biceps are, the most of the load is being placed onto the long head. In a hammer curl, the biceps are still activated, however, you are actually placing more of a load onto the brachialis and the brachioradialis. So if you're doing hammer curls, just understand, yes, while it is a lower arm or an arm exercise that does involve the biceps, it is an exercise that is emphasizing the brachialis. Now there's a couple different ways to do it. A standard hammer curl, to where you're curling up just like a hammer, okay? Which a lot of people are probably familiar. Now you will see people do what's called a cross-body hammer curl. They come up here, and they're crossing the body here. The difference really comes down to the amount of flexion that you have in the biceps. Now remember, as I said before, because this position here, you're coming up, the load goes more horizontal, you're actually minimizing the load at the top. You're not getting as much flexion into the arm. If you turn it here, where the elbow's facing out, you're actually able to get more flexion into the arm just because of the position of the shoulder and how it's rotated. So you can do both versions. Just understand that each one of those versions, you are placing load onto the brachialis, the brachioradialis, with the biceps assisting, but it is not a movement that is specific to actually hit the biceps, okay? Remember this, just you see that lengthening, and remember, that matters when you're actually holding the load. If you guys have any questions about this exercise or anything else, please feel free to ask me on the Workout Trainer Facebook page, or you can always ask me on the Gym Army Facebook page. We are there a lot as far as interacting, or anywhere that you see this video, YouTube or whatever. I try and tap everybody who has questions to make sure I can get back to them as easily as possible. You can always follow me on Twitter. It's Mackerlane20, M-C-E-R-L-A-N-E 20. And until next time, guys, it's Mike Mackerlane with another episode of Workout 101 on WorkoutTrainer.com, right here at The Gym, personal home fitness studio of Dr. Jim Sapani and myself. Until next time, guys, take care.